Good morning everyone. Today we are on the Prodata stand at Btme 2026. Mark has very kindly agreed to just talk a little bit about our new disease models that we've got running. The Smith-Kearns model for dollar spot, the microdocking model which has just come out, and the anthracnose model. We're just going to talk about what sensors you need to utilise those models and what the models actually look like. So Mark.
Okay, thanks Peter. I think the uniqueness with the models with the data we're getting from the weather stations is the leaf wetness sensor, which we have here. The main benefit of using leaf wetness data is it's just above ground height, whereas most predictive models, most weather forecasts are at 2 meters. But the dynamic that drives disease is a ground height, and that's what we're measuring from a leaf wetness point of view. We're measuring dew formation on the plant, the duration of leaf wetness, and that's the primary driver to anthracnose, dollar spot, microdocking and other foliar pathogens. So for me, what's unique is being able to take ground height data and then put it into a model.
So we're also using temperature humidity data with that from the main weather station?
Yeah, so we're using temperature, humidity, leaf wetness data, dew point data, and that all goes into a set of deterministic equations and then gives us a probability of disease.
And we're also looking and speaking to clubs to correlate that data.
Yeah.
So we're using eyes on the ground.
Yeah.
To improve and to check our model.
Yeah, I mean a disease model is only as good as its validation. Mm-hmm. So we rely on superintendents, course managers, greenkeepers feeding back when they're seeing disease, and then we're matching it with the climatic conditions, and that's been ongoing for the last 5 years.
Yep.
And what's interesting is some of the feedback we get on a disease like dollar spot doesn't match the traditional parameters that are associated with that disease. So we've done some research last year looking at how dollar spot grows versus temperature to produce a more accurate dollar spot model.
So basically able to enhance the models that we've got.
Yeah.
And that's all using the Davis platform, APIs and equipment.
Yeah, so we've got, as you know, we have a Wi-Fi and a cellular option, and they both have the ability to run a leaf wetness sensor, as well as additional sensors. And so either system allows us to get the data along with the temperature, humidity, and dew point data and put it into the algorithm.
Brilliant. Right, so let's take a look at actually what that data looks like on a PC.
Okay. This is the Prodata reports platform. One of the things when I first started working with Prodata, one of the things that struck me was a weather station produces a lot of data, but a course manager, superintendent doesn't have the time to go through that data. So having a software package that puts it all together in a set of reports was key. So that's what Prodata reports does. Yep. It correlates, it takes all that data and it summarizes climatic, agronomic parameters and disease models. So here we have the 3 models that we're currently working with. So for example, on anthracnose, if we go to the summer, last summer, pick a month, so you can see for this particular golf club, around 10th, 11th, 12th of July, they were
high disease pressure,
but with anthracnose, it's the initial trigger event. You don't actually see the symptoms on the turf, so you have.
So this would be the trigger event.
This is the trigger event. Mm-hmm. In fact, I would guess, because we had such a warm June, if I look back a month, there was actually one preceding it. Yeah, there was.
There you go.
So the first trigger event of anthracnose in the summer last year was the 20th, 21st and 22nd of June, which is quite early. Now, that initiates a disease. A course manager won't see that disease, might not see it for another 6 weeks. By the time you see it, it's too late.
So this would allow, when you've seen this high activity or initial initiation of the disease,
Yeah.
that would be able to treat potentially?
Yeah, because by seeing this trigger, you've effectively got 7 to 10 days to put a treatment down to stop the fungus growing in the plant, so you don't get the symptoms developing later on.
Okay.
So anthracnose is quite a different disease that way. You have to identify the trigger and you have to act before you even see it.
Yeah.
If we go to the microdocium model, actually going to last autumn, so October, we saw a lot of disease activity in October.
Yep.
We had a high pressure system, weather system that trapped a layer of warm air at ground height. So we got very long dew duration, which we measured on the leaf wetness sensor. And so we got, you can see here, a correlated peak from about the 12th to the 16th, which meant that during that period we had not just one day of high pressure, but four
Multiple
successive days. And that was the primary driver to microdocium. And the thing with that disease is, or the aspect is, once you see that disease and then you get the scarring, that's the initial entry point, and then it will become more
So
active.
again, at this point in time, you wouldn't be seeing the disease?
You would start to see it probably on day 2, day 3.
Right.
But if you had put a fungicide down in early October, that may have covered that.
Yep.
But again, because it's 4 successive days, it was an extremely aggressive attack. So we identified that initial trigger, and that's really the one where you have to have your.
You could activate a application or something.
Yeah,
like
or to be honest, we know we're going to get microdocium in October. So the important thing is, if you've got some control down, that it's covering you for that.
Maintaining it.
Yeah, and so if you've got a fungicide down and you can track it on your growth potential, which is also on Prodata reports, we can make sure that fungicide is still within its activity range. But if it wasn't, that's the main time we got microdocium. And that probability model pulls in leaf wetness data, temperature data, dew point data, and humidity.
So not only is this improving the course playability and the quality of the course, it's also reducing the amount of application that a course might have to use, and saving money.
Yes, because in October, that's your warmest autumn month.
Yeah.
So that's when the disease is most aggressive. Now, if you don't stop it then, whenever we get peaks in November and December, then you just get flare-ups because you introduce a lot of spores into the grass. If you can stop that then and control it then you have a much easier time for the rest of the winter.
Okay.
So again, identifying that early peak of activity is key.
And then again, this is something that we're looking to continue to improve. Also looking at potentially putting it into an app.
Yep.
And making like reporting within an app potentially for a customer.
Yeah,
all sorts of options going forward.
Yeah, so hopefully have it on a multi-platform basis.
Yeah.
And again, we'll be learning from customer feedback to make sure the weighting of the different parameters in the model is correct. But so far, so good. A lot of that work's been done, and hopefully, if I've done it right, it's accurate.
Brilliant. So if you want to hear any more about our disease models, our weather stations, and how they can be used, and also one of the key features looking forward is the way they can be used environmentally, where there's a lot more environmental pressures now, legislation coming through Europe, within the UK, and you're having to have on-site accurate data. So I think that's one of the key things here, is that we're actually using specific on-site data from your own sensors, and that's giving you on-the-spot accurate information.
Yeah, particularly another one would be evapotranspiration.
Yep.
You know, we had a drought last year, so water as a resource is a big issue. In this country, we want to build a lot of houses. We know for a fact there's not enough water to supply those, and we're using that same supply to irrigate golf courses and pitches.
Yeah.
So we know there's going to be almost a conflict in terms of water as a resource. We know we're going to have to justify why we're using the amount of water we're using. And the only way you can do that is by measuring ET and evapotranspiration, which of course we do on the weather station.
As a standard parameter.
Yeah, so I think gone are the days when you could just put X amount of water on and that would be fine. Now, not only have you got to say, well, I'm using this much water because I've got this much ET, but then going further forward, it's how can I use other things like wetting agents, whatever, to make my irrigation more effective, so I use less water. All of that revolves around moisture monitoring, but also evapotranspiration, how much of that moisture you're losing from the plant and the soil to the atmosphere.
So we're not just creating lots of data, we're making our data usable for the golf course, for the superintendent.
Yeah, I mean, that's hopefully what that Prodata platform does. It makes the data easy to use. It shows you when you have a soil moisture surplus deficit scenario, for example. So it hopefully allows you and empowers superintendents to make good management decisions based on factual data, not predictive data.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mark.
Okay.
Nice to speak to you.